Enjoy the ride. What is up? What is up? What is up? What is up? What is... Ladies and gentlemen, it is 8 o'clock. That means one thing only. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to the sound of my voice, you are listening to the greatest podcast around, the Wrestle Talk podcast with Joe and Rene. We got a show for you tonight. Let's get it going on. Rene, the Night Owl, what is going on?
Que pasa, que pasa, que pasa? My gente, my brothers, my sisters of the Wrestle Talk family. Welcome once again to the Wrestle Talk podcast with Joe and Rene. Greetings and salutations, as a good friend of mine, Jay Hollywood, usually says. We're happy to have you guys here. Nightmare Jones, we are back, baby. It's Wednesday. It's time to put in work. It's time to keep it official like a referee with a golden whistle. How you been, man? I'm excited for today's show, man. We got a hell of a lineup, but before we break down the lineup, I gotta know, man, how the hell are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I can't complain. I had a good Memorial Day, and right now I'm sitting back doing the Wrestle Talk podcast and drinking myself a Mike's Hard Black Cherry Lemonade. So I'm good to go.
Black Cherry Lemonade, huh? I gotta try that, man. For Memorial Day weekend, I got me a box of sorted New Belgium with like 3 or 4 different flavors. I can't remember the names of any of them right now, but that's for a good reason because I had about 8 of the 12 in one sitting. But I'll definitely make sure that I share that with you because they were freaking outstanding, dude. Yeah, so happy belated Memorial Day to everybody. When I obviously take a moment, even though Memorial Day has passed, to thank all of those who served and gave their lives the ultimate sacrifice so that we could have the freedom to do what we like to do here in the United States, and that's work hard and spend time with our friends and family. So I tip my cap, though I'm not wearing one, to any of those who gave their lives in the line of duty, and of course to the families, Joe, to the families of those who gave their lives, because they're the ones tasked to carry on with a devastating loss like that. So shouts out to everybody who's supporting the military or has obviously been involved with the military in any capacity, even if it is just in a support role. With that being said, we got a lot to get through today, guys. It is Wednesday. It is 7 o'clock Central Time, and that means we're going to talk wrestling for the next hour and 57 minutes. So we're glad that you're here with us. Special shout out. Excuse me, to our friends tuning in on Periscope. Periscope folks, you know what to do. Hit the retweet button, man. Share this thing. Tap the screen a few times for your boy. Obviously, got to take a quick look at all my friends on Facebook. We already got a couple of people in the room peeping us out. What's up, guys? Thank you guys for tuning in. If you got a second, man, tap the screen a few times. Share this broadcast, man. Let's make sure everybody gets an opportunity to see the show live. That is the best way to see the show and hear the show, is to see it live. But if you can't, it's okay, because you can always visit WrestleTalkPodcast.com and listen to the podcast whenever you're free, whether you're commuting to or from work. If you have one of those annoying jobs where you can't stand the people there, just throw those headphones in, man. Hit the website, listen to the show, and we're always encouraged and excited to get any feedback that we can from you guys. As a matter of fact, we have a poll up right now on the WrestleTalkPodcast.com asking you guys what you think about the website. It's been up for about 3 months now. We are still working through some of the details. Hey, what up, Tyler? Welcome back, man. Nice to see you again, buddy. We are still working out some of the kinks on the website, but it's about 90% done. So if you guys like what you see so far, man, head on over to WrestleTalkPodcast.com. It's on the front page. Vote on the poll. Tell us what you think about it. So far, I think we've got about 70 votes, and about 67 of them are positive, which is a great thing. But I digress. Today's show, we have independent wrestling Midwest legend, the Wrecking Ball Pete Madden. And a few minutes ago, I was actually on YouTube on the Metro Sports channel, which still exists, thank good God, and watching a classic match between the then MWA champion Jeremy Wyatt and the Human Wrecking Ball, Pete Madden. I'm not going to give away the finish, nor am I going to give away the beginning, because both are very interesting. But when you guys get a chance, man, head on over to the Wrestle Talk Podcast fan page or tonight's thread. It's on there somewhere, man. It's about 11 minutes and 38 seconds long. It is a great match, and if you are listening to us interview Pete Madden and go, hey, I've heard that name, but I've never seen him in action, you can always hit up the fan page or hit up this thread here on our fan page, and the link is right there for you if you guys want to see some classic, hardcore, kick-ass, independent wrestling from really the company probably that's done it better than almost any other. That's Metro Pro Wrestling. May they rest in peace. Now, for the rest of the show, Nightmare Jones, we've got high spots, man. We've got Jay Hollywood and Brandis joining us tonight. We've got a very hot topic. We want you guys to join in on the conversation. We're talking about color in professional wrestling. And no, I'm not talking about race, not color in that sense. I'm talking about color, getting color, using the blade, doing the job. You guys know what I'm talking about. Do we need more of that in professional wrestling? Pete Madden is one of those guys that's known for hardcore, guy that's known for going a little bit over the edge when necessary to add the right kind of flavor to a match, and I know that he's a guy that did it very well, but then there's a lot of guys, I'm not going to name any names, who do it, and it's a little bit distasteful. The question is, though, should we have more of it? That's what we want to task you guys with. And my friends on social media right now, please type this out for me. If you want to join us in that topic, dial 657-383-1521. Again, that's 657-383-1521. And those who watch on replay, feel free to comment on this and we can continue the conversation online. Once we wrap that up, Nightmare, we'll go on a break. We'll talk to our friends from the Fantasy Wrestling Worldwide chapter, the world's greatest fantasy wrestling group. More information on them at WrestleTalkPodcast.com. We actually are going to have the #1 ranked superstar in the fantasy promotion calling in along with his tag team partner, the Marvelous Missy. And they've got a message for the whole chapter. They don't feel like they're getting any respect. They feel like their hard work is falling upon deaf ears. And so they are going to come in, and they're going to come in with a vengeance. So I'll make sure everybody tunes into that, because I think you're going to want to hear what they have to say. Follow that up with Big Daddy P. And then we're closing this sucker out with Ring of Honor's play-by-play man, Ian. That's right, Ian, and you guys are going to be like, well, Rene, that's cool. Ian who? What's his last name? And, of course, I'm going to be the one guy who's actually going to make the effort of pronouncing the last name, and I believe is Riccaboni. That's right, Ian Riccaboni, play-by-play guy for Ring of Honor, will join us. They've got a bunch of great stuff coming up in the state of Illinois here in just a couple of days, really in a week or so. So we want to make sure we bring you up to date on all that information. He's going to join us. We're going to talk a little bit about his career, but we're going to talk a whole lot about Ring of Honor and what they've been doing to continually impress even the most fickle of wrestling fan. Ring of Honor, I think, may be the hottest promotion going to date. And that's the guy that's going to give you the information you need, because he's right there in the front row almost every single match at every single show. So if you guys aren't already excited about what we got going on tonight, that is a good reason to get excited. We will have Ian, one more time, Riccaboni on the show in about an hour and about an hour and a half or so. So join us, stay with us, and share and tap the screen as much as you can, because that means everything to us. Nightmare Jones, did I cover everything? Is it time to get into high spots already, man? Because I'm ready.
Oh, it's time. It's time.
But wait, don't we usually do something around this time before we get into high spots? I can't seem to remember.
We do. I believe it has to do with removing your hat and standing tall and proud and to respect the greatest country in America. America, damn it.
America, damn it.
Oh, say, can you see? And the rocket. Uh-oh. I'll make up for...
Holy crap.
Every time time. Every time.
Every single time. I had some damn technical difficulties there for a second, but we are back. Can you hear me, Nightmare Jones?
I can hear you.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. All right, without further ado, we are actually having two special guests on the show today. We are having our resident blogger, Miss Outlaw, and we are having Jay Hollywood joining us on the show today as well. So hit the music, intern Timmy. Let's get into high spots right freaking now.
We have now taken over your radio. Hit 'em high, hit 'em high, hit 'em high. If you hit 'em low, hit 'em low, hit 'em low. That's the hole. The ain't got no game. I'm breaking your house frame, coming through like a train. Knocking the head over the whole world is my goal. With my unstoppable boom, taking over control. Can't get none of this.
What's going on, everybody?
What's up, what's up, what's up?
What's up? What's up?
What's up, B?
Welcome back, Brandis. Welcome back, Jay Hollywood.
Thanks for having me back, baby.
Hey, no problem.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's great. It's
We could not have you back, Jay Hollywood. I mean, you're a part of the Wrestle Talk family, so there's no way we couldn't have you come back.
Well, I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. I appreciate it, brother.
no doubt. And the same.
Absolutely. Rene, are you still with us?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I just wanted to get the pleasantries out the way.
The night owl.
No doubt. I wanted to get the pleasantries.
I think so.
Can you guys hear me?
What's been new, Jay Hollywood?
You know, man, every day above ground is a good day, man. I'm just enjoying the day. Have some cool things coming up. As you might have heard, July 15th, SICW Explosion is definitely going to explode when your boy Jay Hollywood in the To Me Speaking To You podcast brings the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez, to SICW. It's going to be epic. I hear Travis Cook has been flapping his gums, so we're going to set that straight. And my co-host of the Conspiracy Farm is going to be on none other than Stone Cold's podcast tomorrow. Pat Milicic is going to be on Stone Cold, so check that out, man. And, yeah, man, just enjoying the night, hanging with you guys.
Awesome. Brandis, what's been up with you?
Nothing much, just actually just taking a break from everything and just enjoying a few moments to myself and enjoying life.
Amazing.
That is amazing. And Joe, I am back. I am back, and I apologize for that. I was having a little bit of a technical difficulty, but that's been patched up. Hey, the joys of doing live radio, right? I mean, damn. So again, thank you guys for being here. We got quite a few things. Well, actually, just two things that we want to get into. One's what I would consider to be somewhat of a hot topic, and the other is just what we're looking at heading into Extreme Rules. I actually want to go ahead and start and get this Extreme Rules thing out of the way here real quickly, just to get your guys' thoughts, and we can even bleed into Money in the Bank just a little bit. But really, the topic that I think we need to cover is this. This past weekend here at NWL, the Royal Blood, Jack's Royal specifically, ended up getting cut pretty good, ended up in the emergency room. Nick Chin ended up cut. And then we got the Wrecking Ball Pete Madden coming on. He's kind of known for hardcore wrestling. And then my friend Marjo, who's actually tuning in right now through the Facebook feed, was talking about an old Mankind Triple H match where Triple H was bleeding like a stuck pig. And so really what I wanted to try to tackle is, do we need to see an increase and an influx of that kind of match to really try to bait people in, to try to buy back into the realism of wrestling? So I want you guys to ponder on that as we try to tackle this Extreme Rules card. And we'll start off with Brandis. Brandis, I know you're a big advocate of wrestling, but specifically women's wrestling. And by the way, I saw ODB for the very first time today, and I have to say I'm very, very impressed. I know that was a recommendation of yours. I appreciate it. She's fantastic. She's a straight badass. Oh, and by the way, Josh, Pete will be here in about 15 minutes, so hang tight and you'll get a chance to talk to him as well. I want to start off with this match. Sasha Banks and Rich Swann versus Elisa Fox and Noam Dar. We can talk about who we think is going to win, but I'm more curious to know, what the hell is Sasha Banks doing with a bunch of mid-card 205 people? I'm curious. You got any insight on that? Because I'm kind of confused.
I don't really, honestly, I don't have an insight on that, but I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, Sasha Banks is badass. She's a phenomenal wrestler. So, and plus, it's like it's a mixed tag. So why not? Why not have? Why? I mean, I don't see what the big deal is.
Cool. Now, I'm curious, and this is kind of a follow-up question. So they pulled Charlotte out of the title picture for a short stint, but she's right back in it. And you could say that Sasha and her have kind of had parallel careers up to this point. Do you think there's a reason that Sasha was, and I hate to say it this way, but she was almost dropped down, and it made me watch 205. Yo, what up, Iceman? Thanks for checking us out, buddy. But what I'm trying to say is they moved her all the way down to do 205 and mid-Carter shows. It did make me watch 205 live, so mission accomplished. But they didn't necessarily do that with Charlotte. Do we think there's a reason for that, or is it just a quick temporary thing until she gets right back into the title picture? I'm curious.
Well, you know how they are with people, anybody who does injuries. I mean, unless you're like handpicked, it seems like unless you're handpicked by like Triple H maybe.
Like Finn Balor?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Or if you're like Seth Rollins, or I mean, you know, unless you're like somebody like that, then you know, it's the same old. You get injured, you come back, especially if you get injured like 2 or 3 times or whatever. You come back, you're going to go right at the bottom until you seem like, I guess, until you're not accident prone to WWE, which personally I think is dumb. But that's where it seems like that's what my best guess is.
And Facebook seems to agree with you. One of our buddies here on Facebook says Vince just doesn't like her. I don't know how true that is. There's a chance that could be the case. I mean, there is a lot of backstage politics and things. It's possible, you know. You never know.
Yeah, you can argue it's all about like how like the main boss doesn't like someone, but it's still the same thing. Like, well, he might not like her, but he's sure gonna like the money that she's bringing in with people buying her merchandise.
Hey, that girl sells merch.
For her, so
no doubt.
So I mean, he might not like her as a person, but he's gonna like her work ethic.
No doubt. Well, let me jump to another match here. Just out of the respect of time, and I apologize, Brandis. Let me jump to another match here. We'll throw to our buddy Jay Hollywood. Jay Hollywood, you got a lot going on, man. You're a busy guy. You know, you said your co-host Pat Miletich is going to be on the Steve Austin podcast. You got the SICW thing going on, but I know that you keep tabs on WWE as well. I'm curious, as a guy that is a big wrestling fan, what have you thought about the Hardys' return, them becoming champions, and now defending the tag titles at Extreme Rules against Sheamus and Cesaro in a steel cage match? Can you kind of give us your overall thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if I can just kind of quickly chime in on the 205 Sasha Banks.
Of course.
I think she was demoted. I think Vince has never really been too high on her lately, and it does. You know, I don't think he cares about the money. He would rather humble somebody than the money. And even though, like Brandis said, she does have a great work ethic, she's awesome, so she is going to help put shine on that 205 division, but I believe it was a demotion. As far as the Hardys, I think it was awesome, man. I think it was freaking awesome to have that kind of quote-unquote old blood back into the system. I think was really good because they're still obviously performing very, very well. And, you know, it just kind of bridges that gap from the new generation to the old generation, just brings it all together.
Now, do you think there's any chance that Sheamus and Cesaro actually walk out of this match as champions?
It's possible. It's possible. I don't know. You know, it seems so crazy now with the belts. I mean, obviously you can't have your Bruno Sammartino 8-year run, but it seems like they're just flipping the belt so much anymore. It's really hard to tell. I mean, the Hardys don't really need a belt, as we know. So maybe they were just kind of. So maybe they were. What's that?
No, I said they really don't. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think, you know, they're there kind of like what Sasha's doing to 205. I mean, just kind of helping putting some shine on the boys a little bit. Not that Cesaro and Sheamus need it necessarily, but, you know, a win over the Hardys, that's definitely a feather in the cap.
It definitely would be, and I guess the bigger question, the elephant in the room, is when the hell are we going to see the Broken Hardy gimmick? I mean, that's what everybody was excited about, and we've seen little to nothing to this point. It's like they're tucking them away. Joe, any thoughts on that?
Yes, actually, I don't look forward to actually seeing the Broken Hardy gimmick because the WWE is not interested in the broken Matt Hardy gimmick. TNA has actually, the president of TNA actually showed emails that the WWE is not interested in the broken Matt Hardy gimmick. They just wanted the Hardy brothers. That's all that they wanted. So I don't particularly see the broken Matt Hardy coming back to the WWE.
Which I think could work in Matt's favor, quite frankly, because, you don't have to worry about it getting stale in WWE, and he's still able to book independent bookings as broken Matt Hardy. So it's a win-win for him.
You know what? I agree with that, and thanks for that insight, Joe. That is something that I was not aware of. And then I'll throw this to you, Joe, and then I'll have everybody go around circle and make a pick here. The main event for Extreme Rules: Roman Reigns, Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt, and Samoa Joe in a 5-way for a shot at the WWE Universal Championship at Great Balls of Fire of all pay-per-views. What do you guys think about this match, and who do you see coming out on top? As always, ladies first. Miss Outlaw, what are your thoughts on the match? Brandis, are you there?
Well, let's give it to the second lady, Joe, since he's drinking a lady's drink and a Mike's Hard lemonade.
That is totally shade. Love it. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, I love you, Joe.
Mike's yours, baby.
And, for me, I don't really care who wins, as long as they go to the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view and they beat Brock Lesnar, so that we actually see the WWE title on Monday Night Raw again, which we haven't seen like April. And so it's like, so yeah, I don't care who wins.
Make a pick, man. Make a pick.
I would rather see Finn Balor win. I think that's who's going to win.
All right, and Brandis is back. Brandis, I know you heard the question. What are your thoughts?
Personally, I would like to see Finn Balor win, but I really believe that's going to be Roman Reigns.
Roman beats it. Hey, our boy Jay Savage agrees with you. Thanks for checking us out, Jay Savage. You guys that are checking us out on social media, tap that screen, hit the retweet, and the share button. That would mean every single thing to us in the whole wide world. Jay Hollywood, did you have a pick?
You know what? I'm a huge mark for Roman Reigns, and I don't give a fuck, dude. I'll say it. I love me some Roman Reigns. And
that makes two of us.
This is my pick. You had asked about what I think about Extreme Rules. And you know what? Ever since, ECW hardcore and all that, I'm not a fan of that. And I will say why. As an old school guy, I think that Extreme Rules, hardcore, all of that shit is an overcompensation for lack of work and lack of psychology. Because you need all this high spot shit to, to overcompensate for really, really putting on a good show. Like you just said, your Royals last week got hurt, Nick Chin got hurt. Absolutely unnecessary, dude. If you cannot put on a show without that, you're pissing in the wind as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so who's
hurt? It shortens people's careers. I mean, we've seen it over and over again.
A point taken, and we're going to get into more of that conversation here in just a second with hardcore and color and all that with the 6 minutes we have left in the segment. But make a pick. Who wins the match?
Roman.
And you're all wrong because Samoa Joe is winning the match. And anybody want to put $50 on it, holla at your boy because we can do it right now. I'll put $50. I'll put $50 right now at Samoa Joe. Don't ask me how I know. I just know it's going to be Samoa Joe. Believe that. And it's funny, though, because Jay Hollywood, a few minutes ago, you said... No, check me out, right? I know, I got them bars, son. So a few minutes ago, you said something about the title switching hands or whatever. It's kind of agitating because it's either the title switching hand every other pay-per-view or the title disappears for 4 months at a time. We have not seen the Universal Heavyweight Championship since April 2nd, ladies and gentlemen. April 2nd. That is absolutely insane. We saw Paul Heyman once in that time span 2 weeks ago, and that's it, man. They need to find a better balance. Now, 5 minutes, guys. We're going to have to tackle this in Roadrunner type speed because Pete Madden is ready to come on. And I'm sure he'll have a thing or two to say about your comment about hardcore matches, Jay Hollywood. But we'll get there when we get there. here it is. Color in wrestling. I think I think Jay Hollywood already gave us his kind of thoughts on it. So let's start with Brandis.
No, that's different. That's different.
Hardcore and okay, fair enough.
Hardcore, all that shit.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm with color. Red equals green.
Okay,
I'm with that.
Fair enough.
I think who was it? Joey Mercury or whoever that was that a long time ago. The guy that got his freak's face smashed by that ladder.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It's just unnecessary, man. In my opinion, it's just unnecessary.
I can agree with that part. Yeah.
Fair. So do we need more of it? Do we need more properly timed matches where there is color? Because if you go back and watch Armageddon 99 or whatever pay-per-view back in 99, the style is absolutely so different than what we see today. Okay, there are high spots back then, not quite as many as we see today, but the matches just feel more gruesome and more intense. So the question is this, and I'll start with you, Joe. Do we need to see more matches like that in order to get people to buy into the fact that these guys are legitimate badasses and make it more credible than what it is right now? Joe.
I think that it wouldn't be a bad idea, but I don't think every match should be that way. I think it should be a very, very special thing. Whenever you would see a wrestler, the face covered in blood like that, every time it was a very, very special, memorable match. And I think that that's exactly what it needs to stay as
I got you, Iceman. I got you.
Something that's
the grocery cart. That's the albino rhino's grocery cart. I know exactly what that happened.
In every single match, because then it would get boring. It's kind of like when you watch, deathmatch wrestling, which I like to watch deathmatch wrestling. After a first couple matches, it gets old because it's the same thing and there's nothing new. So I think that it wouldn't be a bad. It just needs to be something that is done, very, very rarely.
It's similar to finishing moves. Back in the day, a pile driver, you were done and everyone shit their pants. Now it's like, 5 F5s to pin you and you still kick out. It's just like, it cheapens it. Just like Joe's saying on the blood, same thing with the finishing moves.
Yep.
All right, and then Brandis, do you want to elaborate on that at all?
Not really, because they're both saying the same thing that I was thinking.
Great minds think alike, Brandis.
You know it.
Well, listen, I will say this. I think that they could do it a little bit more, but they need to find the right place and the right time to do it. You don't put two guys that have never really done a story together and faced off with each other and have them have a bunch of blood just for the sake of having a hardcore, gruesome match. I'll give you guys an example of the best match that I ever saw with color in my own face, and that was about a year ago, one of the final matches ever in the history of Metro Pro Wrestling between Jeremy Wyatt and Michael Strider, who are now together as a team for NWL. This feud between them went a span of about 2 years. Okay, it went like 2 years. So the gruesome nature of the match, Michael Strider started bleeding 5 minutes into the match, and I believe the match went a little bit over 35 minutes. So it was a little hard to watch, especially if you had kids there and not used to that kind of entertainment, that form of entertainment. But it made sense in the scenario because the guys legitimately had a blood feud, pardon the pun. It made perfect sense. But yeah, and I'm not trying to be a jerk here, and we've had some guys from ZZW on. I'm a ZZW guy, and they've kind of they've evolved, in the last 10 years or so. But a lot of those matches were just a bunch of guys going over the edge because that's what they were known for, instead of it being something that you could actually buy into because the guys legitimately hated each other. So I don't know if that's the right way to close it out, guys.
I think that something like that could...
Go ahead, Jeff.
That's going to happen to Bailey. I think, what's her name? The champ keeps saying Bailey can't get hardcore, Bailey can't get extreme.
Alexa.
I think Bailey's going to come out of the box, get extreme, and I think could even get some color, and people are going to be like, holy shit. Bailey's done turned the corner. She's hardcore. She's got blood. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
That would be great to see. Color in a women's match.
It would be a curveball. You'd be like, whoa.
Dude, it would be fantastic to see color in a women's match because you know what? Raw is going to have to catch up to SmackDown because SmackDown's getting ready to have the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So they're going to have to shake something.
I saw that last night.
They're going to have to shake.
That's going to be dope.
Yeah, that's going to be dope. They're going to have to shake something, brother, because, and I'm with you, Jay Hollywood, because right now SmackDown is leaps and bounds ahead of Monday Night Raw, and I don't think there's really any argument when it comes to that.
Leaps and bounds, but they're coming. They got Charlotte. They got the New Day showed up last night. They're definitely, I don't say leaps and bounds above Raw, but they're definitely nipping at their heels, if not neck and neck.
Dude, and this is just me personally, I'm itching to watch SmackDown live. I can do Raw on a replay. That's just me personally. But I will, but yeah, that's just me. That's just me. But listen, guys, we have reached the end of our time here on the High Spot segment with Miss Outlaw and Jay Hollywood. Miss Outlaw, I know you got a couple of projects in the works. Why don't you go ahead and drop that information, let people know what you're doing, and then we'll close it out with Jay Hollywood doing the same.
Well, I am still taking a little bit of break, but you guys can still follow me on Twitter, Love90Lady, and just look out for some other stuff. I'm still going to have my blog and things like that. So I'll keep you guys posted.
And I'm going to put you on the spot here, Brandis. Can we anticipate any more of your wonderful writing for the WrestleTalkPodcast.com? Because you've done a couple of projects for us, and they have been extremely, extremely good. So I'm putting you on the spot. Are you doing it?
I will. I'm just still trying to work out some details right now.
Sounds good. Love to hear it. Thank you so much. All right, Jay Hollywood, take it away.
Yeah, man. Like
Yes,
I told your boy in
the
the
actual
beginning, man,
Ian. He will be on in a little bit under an hour. So stay tuned. Share the post, share the broadcast, man. Really appreciate that.
The Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast. I believe it's tomorrow or whenever it's up with my boy Pat Miletich. He's going to be talking about MMA, UFC, obviously talking about the Conspiracy Farm. If you want to go check out what we're laying down, theconspiracyfarm.com. You also have a link to it. It's me speaking to you in all of my interviews, including these two studs I'm talking to you right now, Joe Lance and Rene Martinez. So thank you guys once again for having me on. Always proud to be a part of this family. Peace and much love to everybody. Listen.
Everybody listen. No doubt. And I'll tell you what, Jay Hollywood, thank you and the Conspiracy Farm. It's me speaking to you to be the newest sponsor of the Wrestle Talk podcast, man. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be a friend and a partner with you, my friend. All right, there goes Jay Hollywood.
You guys are on the website.
Yes, sir.
And we are worldwide, man. We're in over 100 countries, and you guys are going to get a little bit of rub of that yourself.
That's right. I'm always down for a rub, especially my belly. Take it easy, Jay Hollywood.
Peace, fellas. Peace, Brandis.
Peace. Joe, your thoughts?
Awesome stuff. Like I said, I agree. I cannot wait to be there at Extreme Rules. I would love to see some Bailey get some hardcore action in and, maybe bleed a little bit. I think it'd be awesome.
You're a bloodthirsty, sick man, Joe. You're a sick man. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the High Spot segment. It's always fun to be able to talk to different people about interesting topics. Pete Madden being on the show kind of helped inspire that topic. But then also my buddy Marjo, we were talking last night. He was watching an old Cactus Jack Triple H match where there was quite a bit of color. And we kind of got into a conversation and said, hey, we should talk about that next week. Or tomorrow, I should say. It'd be pretty interesting. And it sure ended up being interesting. But I don't think it's going to be quite as interesting as what we got coming up next, folks. That's right. Our very first featured guest of the show is none other than the Midwest's very own human wrecking ball Pete Madden. I mean, you're talking about a guy who made his debut back in 1992. He's really been putting holes in people's faces and stomping people's backs out for a good part of the last 20 to 25 years. Anybody in the local region, whether it be St. Louis, Illinois, Kansas City, even up towards the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area, Chicago, they know who he is. And if you haven't done your homework, you need to make sure that you hit up YouTube and look up some of his matches, particularly the matches that he did at Metro Pro. One that comes to mind specifically was against Jeremy Wyatt when Girthy started running his mouth or whatever, but I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to talk to this man because a lot of the guys that call him a mentor have joined us on the show in the past, guys like Rick Maverick, and the list goes on and on. So without further ado, again, guys, for the very first time here on the Wrestle Talk podcast, welcome in the human wrecking ball, Pete Madden, baby. Yo, what up, Pistol Pete?
What's going on? Welcome.
Dick, you can hear me, right? We're all good?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Oh, nice. All right, cool.
How you doing tonight, Pete?
I am doing great. I've been on for about 24 hours straight, and had a couple Boddington's ale after work, and I'm just chilling up here on the south side of Milwaukee right now. The home of Silas Young, by the way. I'm walking distance from the home promotion that Silas Young, the ROH star, came from. We do have some wrestling up here. There's a couple different promotions running. Ex-WWF Frankie DeFalco, who had a big feud with Don Morocco. He runs an organization up here. And then there's also, that's Bruce Lee Wrestling. Miss Natural out of Kansas City. She finds her way up here quite a bit to wrestle for them. And then there's a couple other groups around here, too, that run periodically. And I'm only a hop, skip, and a jump away from Shimmer. So I'll go down to Berlin. I'll go down to, Chicago's a hotbed of wrestling, so I'll just go down there once in a while. And a lot of good stuff in this area. But I'll tell you what, man, you start going down to St. Louis, Kansas City, it's exploding right now. I really wish I was 20 years younger.
Well, Pete, and so do we, Pete. And I'll be honest with you, just on a personal note, I consider myself to still be a babe as a fan of professional wrestling. Just one of those guys. I was a big fan as a kid, had about a 15-year absence, and then here within the last 5 years or so, I've really gotten back into it. And one of the things that really helped me kind of find that love again was Metro Pro Wrestling. You, sir, left a lasting impression on all the men that shared a locker room with you, but particularly the guys that shared the ring with you. And as we've led up to your interview today, I've got a lot of your old guys hitting me up going, hey, ask Pete about this and ask Pete about that. So one in particular that comes to mind is a guy you might have heard of. He goes now by the name Belvedere, but you might remember him as the Iceman. And he wanted to know if you remember him hitting you with the grocery cart a couple years back over at Metro Pro Wrestling. And he wants to know if you've forgiven him for that yet.
Oh, I forgave him about 20 seconds after it happened. I was hung upside down in the turnbuckle in the Tree of Woe, and then the old Iceman picked up a shopping cart over his head, took a running start halfway across the ring, and chucked it into my face, and it got quite the great reaction from the fans there. And I did kind of split his head open a bit with a garbage can that night.
Even Steven.
That was the last time I've ever done the chair assault. So for those of you who have never seen me work, the move that I'm the most famous for, other than getting pinned, is I do a moonsault off the top rope with a steel chair onto a guy's head and chest. And I actually did that in that match.
Damn.
Yeah.
Dude,
and a lot of those moves, and the thing is, people talk to me about, like, oh, the chair assault, that's your move. No, actually, the two guys doing it before me kind of stole it from. One was Dangerous Devin Storm, who was known as Crowbar in WCW.
Yeah.
And the other was JT Smith out there in ECW. They were both doing the chair assault before I was, and then after I was done with it, Nate Webb. So he was doing it in Ring of Honor and Combat Zone and all those East Coast indies and stuff like that. IWA down there with Ian Rodden. So, everything in wrestling is kind of borrowed or rehashed a little bit. So I don't want to give anybody the impression I invented the damn thing. But I've probably done more than anyone. I've probably done 300 of them chair assaults. So.
Well, hey, and you can most definitely call it your own. And I do also obviously want to get into a little bit of your early career, but then we had another guy, and this is tongue in cheek, of course, but we had a guy by the name of Mark P. And I think you'll know exactly who it is once I ask you the question, Pete. Mark P. Sent in this question. He says, ask Pete if he remembers Mike Rogers and Dave Chapman from the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay. All right. So I'm thinking that's an NWL wrestler. Probably one of the Soul Patrol. But anyway, in an earlier incarnation of his wrestling career, he was known as Thanatos. And we used to wrestle in one of the most insane environments I've ever been in. There was a wrestling organization in St. Louis called Gateway Championship Wrestling. And that organization spawned the careers of quite a few guys. So you've got guys who came out of there who's running the Ring of Honor locker room. You've got guys like
Delirious,
Matt Seidel. Matt Seidel was there. You got like the high flying guys. We had a ton of guys at the time, but he came into this. It was an old firehouse with a concrete floor, all the walls painted black, a balcony, and I guess room for about I'm going to say about 150 people, and we wrestled in this dingy, horrendous, cold in the winter, super hot in the summer, and the place just stunk like blood and cigarette smoke and spilled beer, and it was definitely, and that's the place that rose out of the ashes of Midwest Renegade Wrestling, which was the place that Mike Rogers and Dave Chapman ran. And Mike and I never saw eye to eye on much. Dave Chapman, I really liked the guy, but the last I saw Dave Chapman, he was making out with a midget on the Jerry Springer show, so I don't know what happened.
Jeez Louise. Well, those are the kinds of stories that we were kind of hoping for when our buddy Luke Roberts reached out and asked you to come on the show, Pete, because, I have to say it's a little bittersweet for me because I've heard a lot of these stories, not all of them, of course. There's probably too many to tell, but I missed you at Metro. When I started going, I think you actually kind of stepped away for a little while and were no longer working there. But, as we sat in intermissions, you listen to some of the guys that had been going there for, the last couple of years. I'm talking about the Thomas Pachecos. I'm talking about the Scott Kesslers who ended up doing the Metro Pro documentary a few years ago. And they would always bring you up and they go, yeah, they'd bring you up. They'd bring up Magic Man. They'd bring up just the guys, the Iceman also, who was working at the time, probably in a little bit of a lesser role when I started going. But that's exactly the reason we want to have you on, because you've got this history, and not only here in Kansas City. I mean, you brought up Gateway, but you've also done Dynamo, NWA Midwest, NWA Mid-South, World Wrestling Association. I mean, you've even done Juggalo Championship Wrestling. So, I mean, you've traveled pretty much everywhere, and I'm curious, man, do any of those places have a near and dear place in your heart more than maybe some of the others because of some of the things you were able to accomplish while you were at those promotions?
Well, when I go back in time, I got to tell you, man, like the place that really in St. Louis that really I consider to be my home, and was the place that I'd already decided to quit wrestling when Gateway Championship Wrestling started. This is how funny this is. I was trying to quit in 1999 already, so that'll tell you how old I am. I'm 51 years old now, but a friend of mine, Ben Oliver, out of the ashes of the Midwest Renegade Wrestling, he decided to start this Gateway thing, like I said, in an old firehouse on the corner of McKelvey and Natural Bridge Road in St. Louis. And he based it on ECW 1995, 1996. So he wanted high-flying wrestling, Japanese high-spot style wrestling, lucha wrestling, hardcore wrestling, mat wrestling, and traditional wrestling. He wanted to have a little bit of everything. And I loved what he was going for. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to quit wrestling, but I'm not going to wrestle for anybody except Gateway. So I really liked Gateway, and from the years, I guess, 2000 until I retired the first time in 2004, I only wrestled one outside match, and that was a match against Michael Strider for the old Central States. And that came about as the result of a challenge that I put out on the internet to shut up a bunch of local idiots in St. Louis that were cluttering up our message board on our website. I said, hey, look, here's the deal, guys. I'll come to your promotion. I'll work for free. I'll put you over clean in the center of the ring. You know, this is all a shoot. I'm on the
Chris?
internet.
Thanks for tuning in.
Telling these
What's up,
other guys
Periscope?
promotion.
Thank you guys for checking us out tonight, man. Tap that screen, hit that retweet, hit that share button, man. That's all we ask, man. We really appreciate the support, guys. Thank you. Pete Madden, y'all, indie legend.
It's just as extreme and just as sick. Nobody took me up on it. Nobody in St. Louis, nobody anywhere in the state of Missouri, into Illinois. Dead silence on the other end of this challenge. And weeks would go by. I was like, I'm waiting. Does anybody want to wrestle me? I'll come to where you are. And all of a sudden, this guy out of Kansas City or St. Joe at the time, hey, come and wrestle me. And it's Michael Strider. And I'm like, okay, let's see who you are, you know. And right away, I called him Delirious. I said, Delirious, like, who is this Strider guy, and what is he, you know? And he goes, oh, Strider's great, man. You're going to love this guy. So what does he wrestle like? He goes, he wrestles like you, except for he's half a foot taller, and he's way more young. And I was like, oh, no way. So I head out to St. Joe, and we had a really good match, and I had broken my arm, but I didn't know it. So it was 2 weeks prior to this match. I had done a chair assault through the announcer's table on the outside of the ring against Nikki Strychnine to win the GCW championship belt. Broke my radius. It was a plateau fracture of my right arm. To this day, my right arm does not straighten. It's bent pretty good. People see the arm, they're like, hey, what the heck's with that arm, man? Well, pro wrestling. I ended up breaking it twice in 10 weeks. But at the time, it hadn't been diagnosed, so I had a booking. I taped it up real tight and put a neoprene brace on it. Went down and I worked Strider in a hardcore match. Hit him with a chair assault. He took a crazy bump over the top rope onto the safety railing, which was suspended between like another safety railing and the actual outside apron of the ring, and he bent this piece of the guardrail. His back landed on it, and literally the steel just crumpled underneath his blade. And at the end of the match, he pounded my face in the thumbtacks, and I came up with a face full of tacks. The funniest thing about that show, I was in the locker room, and a lot of the local guys that were working for Central States who ended up in Metro Pro were coming up to me, like the Iceman and Jeremy White and a few other guys, and they were shaking my hand. Everybody was kind of giving me like the real, I would even say like, they were treating me better than I really needed to be treated. And I said, I'm just a local guy like you guys. The only difference is I'm St. Louis, you guys are here, and I've done a little TV here and there. There's really no difference between me and you. And right as I'm saying that, one of the wrestlers comes walking through the curtain. He goes, hey, there's a guy here that drove all the way down from Nebraska, wants to know if you're going to do the chair assault tonight. And he heard you're on the card, and I was just like, oh, here we go. And that's how dedicated wrestling fans work. Another story that's a little similar to that, I was in Cape Girardeau one time wrestling. And people had seen this local wrestler from Midwest Renegade Wrestling named Jeremy Castor, Jay Castor, Violent J, and they had driven from Chicago 6 hours south to Cape Girardeau to see this guy work. And I'm walking through the parking lot, and they recognized me because I was the meat that the guy beat the crap out of the previous week. They said, hey, is Castor on the card? I'm like, yeah. You working him? No, I'm not working that guy tonight, man. I can only do that like once a month. And he would suplex you all over the building on the concrete floors. He was an ex-shoot fighter. But back in the day, the passion for the independent wrestling, people would, it was pre-internet. It was 98. So these guys they'd drive 6 hours. Oh, where's this guy working? Oh, my God, I heard he's working in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Get in the car. We're going. And that's how committed people were. There's still people today like that, like Brian Kelly and DeBray. They do was it the Missouri Wrestling Revival?
Yeah, they're very good friends of ours.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
Joe those guys, they put in as many miles as any wrestlers I know. They're dedicated, and I love what they do. I've got all those yearbooks. I think I've got up until 2014. So the next time I see Brian, I'm hoping he's got 2015 and 2016 on him. I can buy a couple copies. But yeah, those guys are great. They travel, and they got the bit between their teeth every weekend. So good for them. I know they're going through a tough time right now too. So Brian, if you're out there, I know you've had some tragedy in your family, and I just hope you guys are getting through it.
Yeah, and I want to echo those sentiments. Brian Kelly's been a critical part of helping the Wrestle Talk podcast expand here throughout the Midwest. We've offered our services to him on multiple occasions. He's taken us up on it, and he's asked us for help in return, and we just have a great partnership. So shout out to Brian Kelly and Rene Dubray. Just fantastic when it comes to what they do in media, but even better people. I'm glad you brought that up, Pete, because Brian definitely going through a bit of a hard time right now, and we'll make sure people keep them in their thoughts and prayers as well. Let me do this, Joe. I know that you're somewhat familiar with Pete. I know you're not here locally, but you know more about the Midwest wrestling scene than most people that live here locally. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw it to you. Do you have anything for Pete?
I do. As a matter of fact, you were talking about Violent J, and you are well known for being in the first ever barbed wire exploding ring match in the United States. How did that match come about?
Oh, that was funny. I was wrestling for WWA on the south side of Chicago, and this was a breakaway group from Windy City Wrestling, which had TV in Chicago. And I had been watching Frontier Martial Arts stuff, the SMW stuff. I saw a match between two women, actually. So Megumi Kudo and Shark Tsuchiya, and it was a barbed wire exploding ring match. One of the most brutal matches I've ever seen in my entire life. And I kind of watched it, and I was like, I think we could do that here. And I went up to this guy in Chicago, and this is before the hair metal band Great White set a place on fire and people ended up dying. So I said, hey, we're going to put these explosives underneath the ring. Yeah, sure. Yeah, he's like, yeah, go ahead. And then we're going to put barbed wire on the ropes, and then we're going to have a shopping cart full of stuff. That's the other thing that's kind of funny. When I did my stint in Metro Pro, I never did get to do barbed wire exploding rings for them. But it was after the first show, there was a guy there with a couple, pieces of foreign objects in a shopping cart. And then every month it seemed to grow, and every time I worked, it seemed like more and more people in the front row would bring more and more foreign objects. Until it got to the point where the last matches I had with Dan Walsh and Magic Man and Trevor Murdoch, the whole front row was people just handing us weapons. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this audience got it, and they got it quick. They bought into the the style that I brought. You see matches with me on YouTube where I'm wrestling scientific matches versus Jeremy Wyatt, and you see matches with me where it's a hardcore match with like Iceman or something like that. And, I'm getting DDT'd on guitars, and I'm getting thrown through tables, and I'm getting thrown through thumbtacks and whatnot. So it's funny, but the Kansas City crowd embraced me pretty quickly. I had a great run in St. Louis. People got me in St. Louis. People got me in Kansas City, and pretty much the entire state of Missouri and into Kansas. And what's funny is my hometown of Milwaukee, I wrestled up here probably 20, 30 times only. Every time I wrestled up here, people looked at me sideways and did not understand they looked at me like I was, like the thing that a dog does when it doesn't understand what you want it to do, and a dog kind of turns its head at you. That's what I got. I got confused looks up here. So, it's Kansas City and all those little great cities like Springfield and Columbia and Jeff City, and I just love wrestling. Every weekend I was on the road down there in Missouri, and like I said, man, we had a great crew of guys. And we were talking earlier about Gateway. Matt Seidel who turned out, he went on later to be Evan Bourne in WWE. I was wrestling him one time, and we had a great match. And the next month, I showed up, and I was like, well, where's that Matt kid from last month? He was awesome. Yeah, he needs to be here, selling T-shirts and taking Polaroids of fans and building up his fan base. Oh, he's at prom. I'm like, what? He's got a girlfriend in high school? No. He's in high school. So when I met Evan Bourne, or Matt Seidel, he was literally a senior in high school. That's how young he was.
Wow.
It was just one of the craziest. And he was already doing running shooting star presses and springboard 360 moonsaults off the top rope. The guy was already, like, fully formed pretty much at the age of 18.
Wow, that's amazing. And a lot of these people that you've kind of brought up, I've been blessed to be able to see a lot of them in action. Sorry for cutting in on you, Joe, but I mean, I'm just sitting here awestruck. And the people that are tuning in here through Periscope and Facebook Live are like, did I miss it? I mean, people want to hear from you, Pete. And Luke Roberts had just shot me a message, and he says, and these are his words, not mine. He says, I feel fortunate to say that I've known Pete for my entire career. He helped me reach the next level in professional wrestling. He is the epitome of a class act in professional wrestling. So, I mean, not only did you entertain the fans pretty much wherever you went, you definitely made an impact with the boys in the locker room. We were actually just talking about this last week when we were remembering Owen Hart after it's 18 years since he passed away here in Kansas City at Kemper Arena. It's one thing to be respected and adored by the fans. It's a whole other thing when the guys in the locker room love you. I mean, you think about Owen. Kevin Owens took his name and put it into his name and made it his character. So I think Pete Madden is another one of those guys that may not be in the ring nearly as often as you used to, but guys, at least here in this area, will remember you. And I know you referenced, back home, and I don't know if you know this, that's a scriptural thing, brother. That's been the truth since the beginning of time. The last place you'll be accepted is in your hometown. You can go out, be successful almost everywhere else. It's a scriptural thing in the New Testament. So it talks about, hey, just don't expect to get any love at home because that's probably not going to happen. There's a lot of things that go into that. But, I mean, there's no doubt that listening to you talk about these war stories, man, it's like it's awesome. Totally awesome.
Well, let me tell you that one of the things that always inspired me was Bobby Eaton. He's in my top 5 of favorite wrestlers. The guys that I looked at that were wrestlers may not be the most skilled guys and may not be the guys that got the biggest push or accumulated the most championship titles or whatever, but they were the guys that the second I saw them on TV, I went, I want to wrestle like that guy. And the number one guy for me when I saw him wrestle was Jushin Thunder Liger. I wanted to wrestle like that. But of course, I didn't want to have that character. I just saw the actual physicality and the way he carried himself. But high on my list was Bobby Eaton. And then it turns out in later years, the icon Brian Thompson, who was a Gateway Championship wrestler announcer, he's down south, and he actually rooms with Bobby Eaton. They're sharing an apartment together.
Yeah, and he runs RCW, man. Brian's a good friend of ours as well.
Yes. And he says Bobby Eaton, everyone in the business respects Bobby Eaton. He is beloved in every locker room he's ever been in. He takes sick bumps. I used to see the back body drop that he would take on the cement. And I was like, I want to do something like that. Now, I'm not doing that exact bump, but one of the bumps that I used to take that would freak people out. We had spots that we used to bust out where we would, like, it wasn't to wrestle or it wasn't to sports entertain. It was literally to freak people out. And one of the bumps that I kind of got really good at taking was I'd get run into the turnbuckle. I'd actually be outside the ring post on the floor, and I'd catch a little air and turn myself inside out and take a bump on the hardwood floor.
Oh, gosh.
And the inspiration for that was from Bobby Eaton taking that back body drop on concrete. And, again, you go all through the years, the Midnight Express years, Mid-South, WCCW with the Von Erichs, to the WCW years, to everything he ever did, you'll never hear anyone say a bad word about Bobby Eaton. And that's kind of who I patterned myself after as far as be a guy that shows up, does his job, makes the other guy look good, gets through the night safely, and then have a good time after. You know, not too good a time either. Just believe me, I've had Magic Man with me, so he's got that entire having way too much of a good time thing. He's the guy for that.
He's got it locked down, huh? Had a pleasure meeting the Magic Man at the very last Metro show. I think he was one of the lumberjacks.
Sure.
In one of those final matches. Well,
crocheted.
Yeah.
He was wearing crocheted chaps.
He was, bro, and he had whatever it was. He tied like some scarves into his hair and stuff like that. He was the Magic Man. He was fantastic, but. Unfortunately, just because some of our time constraints, Pete, we have reached the end of our time. But we do want to ask you for two small favors. One, promise us you'll come back for part 2. And number 2, man, tell people what you're up to these days and how they can keep tabs on you through either Facebook or Twitter or whatever you're using these days.
Sure. I'm on Facebook. I did have to put a lot of crazy, I guess, what would you call it, like safety, or not safety, but security measures on my page because I just had too much weird stuff on my page. I had guys advertising supplements, $29 bottles of grape juice, and